Today again we will learn Java method, but today I want to set some different context, that is creating Java method from existing code. So when I say Java method from existing code base or existing functionality, why it is needed? So in my more than 15 years of IT experience, I generally see that number of new developer. Even I also did the same mistake while in my initial career, that when we get or when we receive a challenge, we directly jump to the code base, try to type the code base, and finally execute the result and say done. But later we realize that it can be possible to segregate the common part for reuse. And due to that mistake, number of rework still going on. So that's why I want to give you this set of context, that if you make this mistake, how you can resolve this and how you can overcome this type of mistake so that that will not happen. So always remember these three best practice. When you receive any challenge, don't directly jump into the code base. Think multiple time, then try to understand, is it possible to segregate your code base into some common part so that you can reuse it in later. And once you find out that, then jump to the code base and try to create your solutions. So if you remember these three steps, 1 2 3, then you never need to do any type of rework. But today I want to share you, if you already did that type of mistake, how you can overcome that. So we will take our LCM HCF code base that we already did, and we will try to reuse the same functionality and try to create some Java method so that we can reuse that method for future purpose. And here I will not tell you the exact logic to write the LCM and HCF, because that you already learned in our previous class. Instead of that, today we will learn how we can convert that existing class or existing functionality with some new method. So let's directly jump into Eclipse and try to implement that one. So I have already opened my Eclipse and I have also created a LCM HCF method conversion class under com.demo.method package, and I simply use the same code base that we did previously to create a LCM and HCF, or to find out a LCM and HCF for two given number. Now once you think that you did some mistake and you have to convert that one in method, so first you have to understand what is the logic you written and how you can segregate and how many part you can segregate in your method. So if you check here, so we actually need two number a and b that will be entered by user, that is basically first number and second number. And finally, based on some calculations logic, we are trying to find out LCM and HCF, and then we are trying to print or display that, right? So you can see here that our actual logic written here based on two number that was given by user. So we can create a method and simply we can put this logic and its print statement under that method, right? So let's create a method just outside your main method. So my main method just complete here. So here we can create a method like, let's say, calculate LCM HCF, and as I told that under that we are going to segregate, or we are directly going to cut this code base and paste it here. Okay, because we know these are the basically logic for that calculations of LCM and HCF. Now what is needed here? So you can see that we are already getting some red compilations error, right? So the actual need here is of two number a and b, right? And how we can get that? So that will be entered by user, and that is collected under a and b variable. So definitely if we pass these two value while calling this method, then our logic will work, right? So to do that, we need to create two variable a, or two parameter a and b under this method. Now once I have created this one, and you can see here I have given the same name a and b, because our logic is written based on a and b value, right? Otherwise, if you, let's say, change the variable name, let's say number 1 and number 2, then you have to again rework here. So it's up to you. You can do the best based on your idea, but currently I am just trying to pass the parameter as the same name so that I don't need to rework here. Now check what is the exact error I am facing. So you can see this p is a variable and I am facing a compilations error because it is not finding this p here, right? Because we have created this variable under this main method, and we need to access, or we are actually trying to access this one here under this calculate LCM HCM method, right? So that is not possible. Even the same thing or same problem happened for HCF variable and LCM variable, right? So what we can do, instead of making these three variable here, okay, we can directly cut that one and create the same type of variable under this method, which we already learned. That type of variable is called local variable, right? So here I just pasted that three variable, and what are the type of these variables? So basically all the variables type is int. Previously we did that one as a int, right? So simply create int and use the same variable so that you don't need to rework again. Now you can see our logic is done, and definitely here I am getting this one because I have to terminate that one with semicolon. Now our program logic is done. Once user call this, or from any class or any method we are trying to call this method with value a and b, that is basically two integer value, that will come to this logic and finally print HCF and LCF. I'm not going to tell you what is the exact logic because that we already learned. Today's our aim only to convert that one. Okay, so you can see here on the main method I am only creating two variable a and b, so that user can enter their value and we can capture that value under that two variable. Here you can change the name of this variable. Let's say num1, that is basically number one, and number two, because this is not a huge task. And instead of a and b, we can collect that one here under num1, that is our first variable, and instead of b we can collect that one under num2 variable. Okay, that is our second number. Now you can do ab as well as num1 num2, that's up to you, but our definitions is done. Now we have to call this method, okay, to execute this program. So from here we can call this method, and how we can call that method? So here our calling part will be done, and here we can call directly as it's a static, so we can directly call by this name. Okay, and what type of value we have to pass? Two value, that is basically a and b, and this is nothing but our first number and second number that we collected under two variable num1 and then num2. So use these two variable to pass the value num1 then num2. Now you have to terminate this one using semicolon. So this is the calling of this method, and here we are actually defined our method, right? So once your definitions is done, then you are trying to calling this one with the value that will be passed by user, that is basically our first number and second number, and then once it's calling, so it will go here, and finally whatever the logic you written very previously, that's mean our existing code base, I just what to do, I just try to copy paste that one so that we can get the same result, right? Now once this is done, you can double click here and save it using Control S. Always you would Control Shift O F and Control S. Okay, now if I try to run this by click on this button, so you can see like previous one, it's asking enter the first number, that is our this statement. So if I enter let's say 5, then once I enter it will ask enter second number. So if you enter second number, let's say 40. Okay, now the next step is that it will call this method with the value 5 and 40, and once it's called this method, so it will basically go to this method and finally it will calculate based on the value, and it will print the two different statement. One is basically for HCF, another for LCM. So let me enter here, so you can get the two statement for HCF and LCM, that is basically 5 and 40. So this way you can easily convert your existing code base into a function or method if it is needed. So first you have to just understand the logic, then try to find out what exact part you are going to put in your method body, and what is the exact value as a parameter you have to pass for this method. If you understand these two things, that is basically passing the input and the logic of this method, then you can easily convert your existing code base into method if it is needed. But always do best practice. Once you got or receive any challenge, don't directly jump into the code base. Think number of time, is it possible to create a common functionality so that that can be reused in future. If that is not possible or if that is not needed, then only go and create a simple program. Otherwise, always try to segregate your program to make it more reusable.
I believe this video has helped you to understand about the topic. Thank you for watching. Please do subscribe, click on the bell notifications and select all so that you don't miss any video from this channel.